let's talk about why you're procrastinating, shall we? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the Timely Teacherpreneur over here, and all on this channel we talk about how to master your time and energy while scaling your business so that you can break up with busy, ditch the hustle and grind, and stop sacrificing your mental health and sanity. If you're new here, I'm Rainey, and I'm so excited to get to share with you all different productivity tips, tricks, and strategies to make your life just a little bit easier. But today's video, we are gonna be a little more sciencey, but I promise, if you stick with it, it'll really solve a lot of your procrastination problems because I'm sure all of us have struggled with chronic procrastination. Your hand should be in the air right now, I'm sure, if you've struggled with it. And so I wanted to share a little bit about why you're procrastinating and then some tricks on how to stop procrastinating. Because at the end of the day, procrastination is productivity's biggest downfall. So with that, let's get started. Full disclosure, if you see my eyes darting down for a brief second, it's because my notes are taped right underneath my ring light because your girl can't just do this on the wing and on the cusp. So if you see my eyes darting, that is why. Apologies in advance, but we're gonna roll with it. First thing I want to ask you is a couple of questions. Why do you think you procrastinate? What are your triggers for procrastinating? Why are you procrastinating on certain tasks compared to other tasks? What's actually going on there? Why did you start procrastinating? Now, I'm sure there's a couple of answers that might have crossed your mind, such as, I don't know, because I'm just lazy, because I didn't want to do XYZ, so I keep putting it off, I have no self-control, because the specific task gives me fear or anxiety or doubt. You fill in the blank there. That's not why we procrastinate. Procrastination doesn't have to do with you necessarily feeling motivated or stem from a lack of time management, as you may think. Procrastination does not even just pertain to work, which is primarily what most of us think of when we think of procrastination. We think we're avoiding some type of work, but we can easily be procrastinating in other parts of our lives, like our health, our families, our friends, our relationships. All of those things can have procrastination affect them. For example, if you've known that you've been wanting to go back to school for a while to finish your degree, yet you keep not signing up for classes and sitting down and taking the time to re-enroll, then you're purposely self-sabotaging yourself and procrastinating on your ability to get your degree. You're allowing yourself to stay in the same place forever and never progressing, which I'm sure is not what you want for yourself. Now, in one of the articles I read, yes, I read lots of science articles, super important, they defined procrastination as the voluntary delay of some important task that we intend to do, despite knowing that we'll suffer as a result, which makes perfect sense when you look back at the root of the word. You know that the word procrastination is derived from the Latin verb procrastinare, which means to put off until tomorrow. But it also has a Greek history from the word akrasia, which is doing something against our better judgment. Couldn't be more true because most of the time when we are procrastinating, we are fully aware that we are procrastinating and avoiding some type of work, but that doesn't end up stopping us from procrastinating more. Sometimes it does, most of the times it doesn't. If anything, it just makes you feel worse because you know that you're procrastinating and you know you're avoiding that specific task or anything that needs to be done, but you're just willingly avoiding it anyway, which only leads to, distraught and being more self-harm in the process. I was reading an article where a professor basically said that procrastination is essentially irrational because it does not make sense to do something that's going to have negative consequences for you down the line. So why do we do it anyway? Well, it's not because you're lazy. It's not because you suck at time management. Now, you may be bad at both of those things, but ultimately procrastination comes from our inability to regulate our emotions. Yes. You mean if I'm in a bad mood, I'm going to procrastinate? Not exactly. Procrastination is a way for us to regulate challenging emotions that are coming up for us when we're faced with certain tasks such as anxiety, fear, frustration, self-doubt. The list can go on and on. But the problem with these feelings is that we cannot control when we're going to feel them or even feeling them themselves. Like you can't just say, fear, get out of here. I don't want to feel fear right now. If you try that and it works, let me know. You're just like an emotions genius. But if we could just wish all of our negative feelings away, then we would all probably be much happier people. But even though we can't control those negative emotions when they come up, we can control how we respond to it, which is the major takeaway that I want you to get from this. You can have different negative feelings around different tasks. So for example, if you know that you need to clean out the cat litter, we're getting real personal here because this is one that I hate. If you know that you need to clean out the cat litter because it's overdue, but you don't want to because it's really smelly at this point, and then the cat litter gets all stuck to your feet, then you're probably having feelings of unpleasantness and stress. Whereas if the task is to simply write your dissertation paper for college, you might be struggling with feelings of unworthiness or feelings of self-doubt, feeling like nothing that you write is going to be good and that they won't like any of it anyway, so why even try? Why are you trying to earn your PhD? It's not going to work for you anyway. Those are very different feelings, but they're all powerful enough to make you want to skip the task and not keep working on it and go avoid it and do something else like watch Netflix or scroll on TikTok. I see you doing that. Or clean your closet if you're me. I always go to organizing when I am trying to avoid tasks. The longer you avoid those tasks, the worse those feelings are going to become. You'll feel more stressed than before and more guiltier than before. And all of those feelings are just going to get worse and worse and build up on one another the longer that you prolong that task. The negative feelings don't leave just because you avoided the task. It's also a lot harder to pull yourselves out of those situations when you're feeling stressed or frustrated. Now, like I said, I read a lot of articles, but I promise they're all super helpful because there was an article that I was reading that basically stated when faced with a task that makes us feel anxious or insecure, the amygdala, which is the threat detector part of the brain, perceives that task as a genuine threat, which in this case is to our self-esteem or to our well-being. Even if we intellectually realize that putting off that task is going to create more stress for ourselves and more self-harm in the future, brains are wired to be more concerned about moving and removing the threat in the present process. Researchers end up calling this amygdala hijack, and it's really quite interesting. You can be fully aware that putting off that task is going to harm you and overwhelm, but your brain is like, this is hurting us, this is causing us stress, we need to remove it right away, and then that's when you go and escape and you stop doing the task. Your brain's not helping you in the process. At the end of the day, your brain is all about protecting you and making you stay safe, so it'll make you avoid that task if it feels like it's not safe. I'm telling you. This may be a little more sciencey based, but it's truly remarkable when you really look into the psychology and science and you really understand why we do what we do as humans, because there is a purpose and a reason for everything. Now you're probably thinking, but if our brain is trying to keep us safe from those threats, so how do we trick our brain into recognizing that it's not actually a threat and I just don't want to do X, Y, Z? That's where the emotion regulation that I talked about comes into play, and you have to be calm, you need to be really present in the moment, and you need to have a plan of action for how you're going to accomplish the task. Because while you can't push away those negative emotions like we said, you can have a strategy for working through them when they rise up, and that's crucial if you're ever going to tackle the procrastination issue at hand. At the end of the day, the task is still the same, and we're probably still going to feel the same way about it. Have you ever noticed how the moment that you avoid the task and you end up going to do something else, that you feel this big feeling of relief? The relief is your reward for procrastination. And everyone knows that when you're rewarded for something, you feel really great about it and you're just going to continue to do it again and again and again, which ends up making you procrastinate again and again and again. Hence the vicious cycle of procrastination. Procrastination can turn into a very serious problem if we don't get a hold on it sooner than later. How do we go about reducing our procrastination? I mean, the solution seems so simple. Just freaking do it already. Well, sometimes you may know the answer, but you can't always bring yourself to do it. And since we've already uncovered, procrastination is not a time management issue, it's an emotion regulation issue. You can have killer time management skills, and there is probably one dreaded task that you just do not want to do. You know the one I'm talking about. It's that task that continually just moves onto your to-do list for the next week, and the next week, and the next week, and the next week. I have a couple of those. And then flash forward, it's a couple of months, and it's still on that list. Like for me, when I had a podcast, I had changed my podcast intro on my to-do list for probably a couple of months at that point, and I just kept not wanting to do it because I remembered how difficult it was to do it the first time, and I didn't want to go through it again, and then it just continued to get pushed further and further and further. Even though it wasn't important, I was procrastinating that thing like crazy. So I just kept saying to myself, oh look, I've run out of time again, when the real thing is, I just didn't want to do it. Sure, you can think right now of your version of my podcast intro thing, something that you've been putting off forever that you know needs to get done. The solution does not lie in managing our time better, but in managing our emotions and the way that we respond to the task. Let's tie back in that rewards part, right? Because right now our brains equate that sense of relief that we have when we're avoiding specific tasks as a sufficient reward. Actually, we end up falling into a process of repeated procrastination when it comes to certain tasks. In order to break the cycle, we need to give ourselves a better reward than procrastination. Now, there's a ton of different actions that we could do instead of simply avoiding the task, but it could also just lead to other forms of procrastination, which is why breaking the cycle can be a fairly challenging thing, even of itself. Now, there's a couple of ways that I'm going to share with you of how we can break the vicious cycle of procrastination today and rewiring our mindset. And I'm going to link all of the articles and things that I've been sharing down below, as they really are interesting reads if you find yourself wanting to study up more on this and find more out about the science behind productivity and time management, as I've been procrastinating less and getting more done because of these articles. The first thing you need to do is to forgive yourself right in the moment when you're procrastinating. You may not even realize that you're putting yourself down in that present moment and kicking yourself for not doing the task, but since we almost always know that we are procrastinating when we're actively procrastinating, then we must also actively know that this is going to set us back, and it makes us feel disappointed and discouraged and unworthy, or just like a lot of those emotions that we've been talking about in this video. Forgiving yourself for your procrastination can actually affect and change the level that you procrastinate in future times. There was actually a 2010 study done where researchers found that the students that ended up forgiving themselves for procrastinating for studying before their first test did a lot better on their second test than the ones that just kicked themselves down and didn't forgive themselves. The act of self-forgiveness allows you to move past that negative behavior and your poor behavior choices and focus on the upcoming events without feeling weighed down from the downfall of what you did prior. Another way to stop procrastinating is to make the temptations that end up causing you to procrastinate that much further away and harder to access. For example, if you're notorious for checking your social media every 5 minutes throughout the day, then delete the apps from the phone that are causing you to look at it all of the time. You could delete the apps from your phone or stop access to them for a certain time of day when you know that you need to get that deep work in, because your iPhone settings can do a lot of this for you. So your iPhone can work for you and not against you. Yes, those things are annoying and cumbersome to do, but that's the point. If it's going to be a lot of work to get you to go on to the social media platforms and things, then you're not going to want to do it. You're going to end up procrastinating less. You would really have to work to feel that relief of procrastination. And instead, I would hope that you would feel like it would take a lot more work to do the social media procrastination than to just do the freaking task that you've been avoiding. So you just do it. Another thing that you can do to combat procrastination is to remove every obstacle or roadblock that is in your way. For example, if you know you want to work out in the mornings, but you can never get yourself out of bed, set your alarm in a different part of the room so that you have to get out of bed to turn off your alarm, or your husband's going to yell at you because your alarm is blaring. Also, sleep in your workout clothes if you're really like, I don't even have the energy to get up in my workout clothes in the morning. Then sleep in your workout clothes. Whatever you got to do, girlfriend. Thereby, you end up eliminating another step and leading you one step closer to what you actually want to be doing, which is working out in the mornings. The more roadblocks or objections that you manage before the actual task itself happens, the less likely that you're going to be able to procrastinate on said task, because all of the needles and the things are in play for you to do it. Now, the next strategy is probably my favorite one. If you get nothing else from this video, this is the one that's going to really help you, and I've been implementing it this week and I've seen a lot of progress in it. It's called considering your next action. You're basically just deceiving yourself by playing pretend. So what I mean is, let's say that your next task is to start putting together this presentation slides for a really important meeting that you have at work, and you just have no motivation to do it whatsoever. What I want you to do is merely consider what would be the very next step that you would need to do to move forward in the project. Maybe it's just choose a color background for the slides. Do it right away. And then maybe it would be to write the title on the slides. Do that right away. Maybe it would then be to add a picture of yourself to the bio page of your presentation. Do that right away. Do you see where we're going? So instead of envisioning what simply comes next, you just do it in that moment, and you're making it such a small step that it's going to be really hard to procrastinate it. Because once you actually get started, your motivation is going to kick in and follow, and you're no longer procrastinating because you're feeling in that groove and you're doing that deep work. And so I've deceived myself all week long, and I'm not kidding, it works. So if you take nothing else from this video, try the considering your next action one. It is going to change the game for you. Now, if you find yourself continually procrastinating this week or constantly moving that one item from one thing to the other for the day, I want you to try and become in control of the situation. Recognize your fears or your stress around the task and implement one or more of the strategies that we talked about in this video. You want to leave those dreaded tasks out of the way and kick your procrastination to the curb. Also, bonus points, if you know how many times I've said procrastination in this video, I feel like I've said it 150 times. And remember, procrastination is not something that you can necessarily conquer in just one foul swoop or one day. It is a lifelong thing that you're going to struggle constantly. So you want to make sure that you have those strategies in your back pocket to fix them when it's becoming hard. Hopefully we can start finally managing and regulating the emotions that are associated with these harder tasks and become the truly productive person that you know you can be. And with that, I'm not gonna blather on any longer because we've been here a hot minute. I hope that you learned a lot of stuff in this video. If you loved it, of course, please subscribe, hit the little notification bell so that you can be notified when new videos come up in our new video rotation, which you guys voted for over on Instagram, which is Sundays and Wednesdays, which I'm actually a lot more excited about. Mondays and Fridays really stress me out. So Sundays are gonna be a lot more productivity based, and Wednesdays are going to be a lot more like side business for teachers, TPT, all of that good stuff. So if you're interested, check it out, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye guys.